we have learned to do and build a business around is elevate and be a source of delight for people, not sell people stuff and not serve people stuff, but make people feel like they're part of something.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about solving big problems and making an impact. And folks, maybe one of these days we'll just start off a show, just hit record as soon as we all show up in the green room, because sometimes the conversations are so humorous. Very little value, but they are humorous.
No
and
value.
there's value if you look for it. And I'm sure if we got out a big old shovel, we would find value in our green room conversation.
There's value in laughs.
Yes,
that's so true.
there is in the humor of weather and how weather, and not whether or not, but whether, like the dude on the TV who gets it wrong, and we all blame him because of things. But it's just weather. But the weather and how different and how it affects things. Because our good friend and our guest today, Ken Schmidt, joining us from New Orleans. Those of you who don't know how to say it properly, I'm educating you right now.
That sounded good.
Well, I was born in New Orleans.
Well.
Did you visit the Otis Monument while you were there?
But I saw the billboards for it, so I'll get there.
5 more miles. That's right.
Right next to Stuckey's.
Yeah. Oh man. And you know, one of your pictures you sent us for the show, folks, you've already seen the picture because I'm pretty sure it's the one we're going to use. Getting on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And me being an SF guy, my brethren leans heavy towards loud Harleys. That has been a special forces thing for many, many years. What drew you to the motorcycle world?
To be perfectly honest, there was a bunch of things. As a kid, I was completely enamored with the idea of mini bikes, where you could have a motor and go up hills without having to pedal. And I was surrounded by acres and acres and acres of dirt and wood. So I always wanted to do that. And then that collided at the same time that Evel Knievel appeared. And I could not possibly have been more swallowed by all of that. And to be honest, I was a Cam. I feel bad for people who weren't around then to see just what a fantastically odd but amazing spectacle all of that was. How a guy doing incredibly dangerous motorcycle jumps became the most popular man on the planet. Crazy. All I thought was, that's what I want. Got the first of all, chopped up all my bicycles to jump over things like everybody else, and got maimed like every kid in America. Doing the evil thing, then finally got the mini bike, finally got the motorcycles, and did it forever. And when the opportunity came up to go work at Harley-Davidson, I could not have jumped harder, higher, and faster to get in there. So this is it. People get paid to be around motorcycles all day. I want to be one of those people.
I want to actually, you talk, Ken, you feel bad for people who don't get that. I don't get that. And I'm actually curious because I want to hear a little bit more about that, because I've of course heard the name and all that. But to me, the Harley-Davidson motorcycles, all that, that's just like biker gang stuff. The TV shows, what was those big one for a while? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it. Hell on Wheels. Hell on Wheels.
Sons of Anarchy and
Sons of Anarchy. There we go. Yeah, yeah. That's all that comes to mind for people my age. So talk to me a little bit about how different that perspective is, because that is really different.
Well, just to put things into perspective, and that is a good question. And I find that a lot if I'm talking, especially if I'm at a university somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I always have to be really cognizant of the fact that the stuff that was blowing me away when I was the age of a college student has zero relevance to because there's no familiarity whatsoever.
Mhm.
Most uh, Actually, most people under the age of 50 were never really around and never really saw uh, bike clubs, like the bike clubs that where people were afraid of.
Mhm.
And they were afraid of these bike clubs because Hollywood and the media kind of trained people to be afraid of these guys. It was mostly just uh, plumbers and pipe fitters and hardworking dudes like everybody else that were just out having fun on a Sunday, but because they were all dressed in black leather and looked like the guys on the movies or up on the
Oh
screen
yeah.
at the drive-in, they were obviously out on some, crime spree, beating people up instead of just riding bikes. Uh, I was of two minds on that stuff growing up because I got a job working at a bike shop one summer that did not have anything to do with the Harley world. This was all imported, used bikes with brand names most people have never even heard of, unless you know about Osas and Botacos and Husqvarnas and things like that. And I would always ask the guys, I'm like, what is the deal with the Harley shop that's on the other side of town? It literally was on the other side of town. And they said, you just don't go there. You don't go. I said, well, why not? Because if they see you pull up on one of these, they're going to light it on fire. Uh, First of all, you believed it because they believed it. It was just this kind
Right.
of crazy, crazy time. And, a lot of things in life, when people paint it as scary or that's something that you don't do, your curiosity just goes off the Richter scale. It's like
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
just
The
felt like I
mind
had.
starts to paint those stories and
Can
create
this
those images.
possibly be true? Because I always say, if these guys are causing so much trouble, wouldn't it make the papers? How come? Like, unless they're that good. And uh, so when Evil showed up, and remember, there's three networks on TV. If you were lucky if the TV at your house had 4 or 5 channels on it. Uh, there was obviously no internet or anything.
The
So
local PBS was the alternate channel.
exactly, woohoo, educational TV. Come on, kids. Who doesn't want to watch that? Uh, so they would on ABC start hyping an Evil Knievel motorcycle jump 6 months in advance. So every weekend, if you're watching, college football or pro football, there'd be promos for this lunatic that was going to jump over, 30 Greyhound buses or something. And this is all stuff that nobody had ever seen done before. So this wasn't just like dangerous stuff. This is like dangerous stuff, at a quantum level. So everybody in the world tuned in to see this stuff globally.
Oh
And
yeah.
during at halftime at Monday Night Football, he's going to jump over 30 semis, and more often than not, he crashed. So you just see this horrible pileup when he landed this thing, and it would always be, "Oh my God, he's dead. We just watched this guy die." But slowly they'd pull him up and he'd give the thumb up and the crowd would roar and everybody go nuts. And next day it would say in all the papers and all the news, he broke like 40 bones and fractured his lung and broke his face. And it's all terrible. And 6 months later, he'd get up and do it again. The whole cycle would start over. And he's doing this on these Harley XR 750s, all red, white, and blue with the stars and stripes and the big red, white, and blue cape that he wore. And I'm like, oh, that's it. This is the coolest thing
I
ever.
love it.
And damned if it wasn't.
Oh yeah.
Well, talking about.
Well,
Oh,
hold
I was
on,
just gonna
Cam.
s- okay, you go. You
I
go.
gotta share this though, because uh, I'm trying to remember what the toy. I want to say they were called SSTs. You put that plastic little ratchet strip in
Oh
there,
yeah.
you get that big wheel, and you zing it, and then you shoot. I had an Evil Knievel one.
Oh yeah. And there's go look on eBay if you get a bored minute and see what people are paying for those. That somebody started remaking them, got the licensing to make and start promoting them like a year ago.
Oh man.
Nobody wants the new ones. Everybody wants the old ones that they had when they were a kid.
Yeah, I mean, we
That's
lived
awesome.
for that stuff. That was,
Heck yeah.
and I think it was, there's an interesting thing that in our mind that we see because I'm a Texas boy and small town Fort Worth. Fort Worth was still somewhat small back then, and I'm seeing this big spectacle in Vegas and all these people and the lights and the showmanship and I, I'm thinking here, and I want to get your opinion on this too, Ken. Is was the draw the man in the arena, kind of the the gladiator sort of thing, or was it the spectacle of the fame that would draw us to those events?
I think it's a couple of things, but I do think you're onto something. I love the gladiator notion because here you had the Elvis phenomenon, 50s, early 60s, where the whole world sees something new and kind of shocking and provocative and spectacular visuals and great sound and just like made for media, made for TV. Then you had like the Beatles after that, and then bang comes evil. Here's this incredibly brave, if you can even use that word. That'd be like, hey, kid, go, jump off a 30-story building and see how it feels when you land. Uh, there was the bravery element. The spectacles were huge, and like the drama that would get built up. He's going to make this, and he's going to do this, and it's crazy. And the odds of him landing this are so slim, and you've already seen him crash 20 times. Is he going to make this one? The drama was, my mother watched it. She hated motorcycles, but I got to see if he does it. I got to see if he lands this thing. And sometimes he would, and the place would go nuts, and sometimes he wouldn't, and it would build up all the drama for the next time. So a mixture of all the above, and what we're always going to be, I think, thrilled with the things that you haven't seen and can't really imagine. And these days, it's hard to describe somebody as the one and only. But he wasn't that. He was a legit one and only. This was something you'd never seen before, and nobody else would be crazy enough to do.
What I was going to ask is, I think talking about these three different veins here of all around the motorcycles, the Harley-Davidsons, is all of those different angles are very different types of people, very different reasons to purchase, all of these different kind of moving parts there. And to me, that's really interesting from a business perspective, because you have one thing you're putting out there. You got all these people that take it all these different directions, and you don't really, I don't even know if the control of the outcome is what I'm fishing for here, but it's got to be a tricky thing to talk about in some ways, because you start selling to the motorcycle riders, motorcycle gangs and all that kind of stuff, and the leather jackets, all that. It's like, well, then the Evel Knievel guys might not like it. It's like you got all of these kind of different angles around one product. Makes it an interesting dilemma there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that aspect of it, Ken.
That's actually a good read, Cam. Back in the late 80s and early 90s, when Harley began its resurgence and was coming out of the drain, coming back to life, we went through a kind of a scary time. And what was scary about it was the People magazines of the world got all jazzed up by this notion of celebrities and their Harleys. So if we're in the barbershop, there'd be People there's always celebrities and their bikes on the covers. It's Stallone, it's Mickey Rourke, it's Cher, it's whoever that person is. And yeah, it was great publicity if you want to look at it that way. But the flip side of it was this smells like it could be perceived as a fad, as something for rich elite.
And the
Hollywood
pipe fitters.
Type. Yeah,
the pipe fitters you're talking about. Why would I get that if the celebrities have it? Yeah.
And we did get some blowback on this. It's stop catering to these people. Make real clear, we were not catering to those people. This was like the Hollywood PR machine. We certainly wouldn't have done anything to stop it because it was good for us. But we get to, hey, what happens when all these people bail out and go get a Porsche or decide they want to get their own plane or something? And I was, well, how would you like me to answer that? It's in ways it's good for business. It's built, it's all incredibly positive. Nobody's ripping on us. Everybody's presenting the bike as like this spectacularly cool thing. And their bikes were beautiful because they could afford for them to be
Yeah.
super beautiful. It's like this isn't really hurting anybody. And then the more what we call the traditional riders, that's your uh, dyed in the wool Harley guys who do their own work on their own
Mhm.
bikes, real like lifelong motorcycle people. Some of them were turned off by what they perceived to be the motor company catering to yuppies, which was a big word back then. I'm sure Otis
Yep.
remembers that,
I remember that.
like selling out to these rich young punks, and they're all going to move on. And we would say, "Hey, do you like the new motor? Do you like the new transmissions? Do you like all the new accessories that are being made available?" That money had to come from somewhere,
Hmm.
right? I mean, if people aren't buying the bikes, we cannot invest in products. So you should be glad that all this flesh, all this new blood is coming into the business. And kind of amazingly, everybody then and everybody now, everybody just gets along. If you got a bike, nobody really cares who you are, what you do, what your background was, what drew you to it in the first place. Hey, if you're in, you're in.
Hmm.
We'll accept you.
It's
Yeah,
almost
it's
like
the two finger wave on the road, right?
Absolutely.
You got to do it, man.
You don't know who that person is 99
Right.
times out of 100. Or
and I was
care.
just going to say so the idea kind of from, from the business standpoint there is almost just letting the product speak for itself. That it's like all these people are going to take it, go these different directions, all that kind of stuff. Hey, but what we do is right here. What y'all do with it, whatever. Is that kind of takeaway there?
Yeah, but it was also, I mean, we knew that,
Mhm.
you know how media stuff goes in cycles. So
Right.
this was like a hot, cool thing. And, Schwarzenegger rode a brand new fat boy in the Terminator. And suddenly
I know that
suddenly he and that bike
one.
were everywhere. And it just kind of exploded. But you knew in the back, hey, Hollywood media and the newspapers, they're going to move on to the next thing, which of course they all did. Fine by me, fine by everybody else. It's like we had our moment, we got the exposure, got a lot of people who ordinarily wouldn't have thought about us or set foot in one of our dealerships to come on in or show up at a bike show and bring their kids. And anytime somebody brought their kids with them, that to us that's not a home run, that's a grand slam. But bringing the kids, that kid isn't thinking about owning a motorcycle now. He or she will be in 40 years, and what's being implanted in their brain now, imprinted in their brain, is what they're going to remember for the rest of their lives, and it's paid off.
Well, and I'd love to talk some about that because for the folks that aren't familiar, Harley Davidson, I mean, the great American motorcycle company, right? But it wasn't, and it had somewhat still does, but I think it's a legacy belief of this. Yeah, it's cool to have a Harley, but you better bring a freaking flatbed pickup,
Yeah.
following behind you and have a whole box, full toolbox and quarts of oil and all that other stuff. How did you overcome as a corporation
Yeah.
that perception of the quality?
Well, and I hate to use the old cliche, but the perception is the reality, and the perception wasn't wrong. Uh, and Harley by the mid 80s was, the company was founded in 1903, so it's already over 80 years old. Every human being on the planet knows what it is. We're the only in America, only company building bikes since the 1950s. So kind of own the market, and the Hondas of the world, the BMWs of the world really weren't even attempting to take a chip out of Harley's market because they were into the smaller, lighter, faster bikes, and Harley's bread and butter has always been the big heavyweight bikes that you can see in your mind's eye. So what the company did what a lot of companies do to this day when things are going good, basically let off on the throttle, and people start taking shortcuts, and uh, management is tolerating the shortcuts, and uh, less than great product starts getting shipped out to dealers who are then in turn selling that stuff to customers. Harley customers back then, that what I refer to as is that the traditional riders were people who, for the most part, were people who worked with their hands for a living, or at least handy enough that they could work on their own bikes. So kind of part of the Harley culture is you better know how to fix the damn thing because odds are you're probably going to have to. So then once the Hondas of the world showed up, quickly followed by Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and BMW, start building big heavyweight bikes too. They went straight for the jugular and basically positioned their stuff as they're all awesome. Bikes are great, but ours are just better because the quality and the reliability is better. You're not going to get stranded by the side of the road. It kind of built their base off of that. Motorcycling is great. Harley built this market. We're just going to come in and steal huge chunks of it with lower priced, better stuff. So the belief that Harley is, gee, what will turn the business around the fastest would be to vastly improve the quality of the motorcycles. That'll shut everybody up and settle that down. So essentially, all the company's human and financial resources were dumped into improve the product, build something that's truly, world class and industry leading and bulletproof. And they did it. We did it and discovered kind of two things happen. Is the motorcycle press, who by now didn't like us at all because the stuff coming from overseas was so well done, start putting Harleys on the cover, saying these are the best bikes being built anywhere in the world right now. And it was like, yay, our work here is done. And what happened, some people that had been on the fence or maybe angry at Harley, went out and bought the new Harleys based on what they were reading. But they didn't start flying off the shelf and the world didn't fall in love. And we'd scratch our heads. Well, geez, we did everything we said we were going to do. Fix the product. The product is great. And then you talk to the dealers and say, everybody says these are the best bikes being built. Why can't you sell them? Which is highly insulting to them, by the way, implying that they were the ones that were the problem.
Right.
And they say, well, people are coming in and they're looking at the bikes and they like what they see, but they're not pulling their checkbook out. And we said, well, why not? Did you tell them about the quality? And they said, of course we did. You tell them about the warranty stuff? Of course we did. Then tell about all the new technology innovation? Of course we did. So why aren't they buying? And they're saying, hey, all this stuff is great, but it just gets you in the game. Everybody's got this stuff. Everybody's building great stuff. Everybody's got this technology. What do you got that justifies the huge difference in price? I was like, we don't have an answer for that. We don't have an answer that people would like for that. So I say, okay, we got to kind of go back to square one here. Just having a great product. So if everybody else has a great product, you can't. The lesson was learned is it's impossible to compete with product because somebody will always build it just as well and price it lower, and we fell victim of that. Like everybody. Like lots of
I'm interested. There's a comparison here that's coming to mind with in the sports world. I know this might be really interesting, or we might just add your question next. We'll see. But the comparison that comes to mind is an interview I saw once with Wayne Gretzky talking about the NHL, and they're talking about getting fighting out of the NHL and how we need to polish it up to get more mainstream and all this kind of stuff. And he basically had this moment. He's like, guys, hockey is so big now, so much bigger than we ever thought it could have been. We have our kind of cult following. We have our people that we want here. Why should we ever try to break into those markets? We have our stuff here. Let's just, take care of our people. I would love to hear a little bit of a comparison with what you're talking about with Harley-Davidson with that, of almost what's the point of trying to be the best to every single person, or do we just take care of our people?
Oh, I would say that we looked at the exact opposite of the Wayne. The great Wayne Gretzky is we needed to be in a hell of a lot more garages than we were in. The first year that we made money in 1987, the first year the company had turned a profit in like 15 or 20 years, we sold 30,000 motorcycles. That's like an afternoon for Honda in the grand scheme of things. Our numbers were low. We had to attract new blood. There was no such thing as, I don't even know if people use the term anymore, as a white collar Harley rider back then. They didn't, they were out there obviously, but very, very few and far between. There were no younger riders. God knows there were no female Harley owners. And people sometimes don't believe numbers and believe the data. I said at one point it was either 1996 or 97, the data that 98% of Harleys registered in North America, that's the US and Canada, were registered by men. Period. So less than 2% of the market was female. I said, last time I looked, they're sort of half the population. We can make up some ground here. That smells like a pretty right market environment. Why hadn't we done anything there? Why hadn't we done anything to attract younger people? Why weren't we doing things to attract people into the sport? We hadn't done any of those things. I remember because we talked about it earlier. In the 60s and 70s, every kid in America knew somebody who had a mini bike or had a dirt bike or wanted one because we thought they were cool. And they were everywhere. Small, light Japanese motorcycles were a huge phenomenon.
And super affordable, too.
And super affordable and super fun and super cool. And, anybody in my generation, we have such great memories of busting around on those things. And what that was, that was kind of that's kind of the minor league, if you will, for getting people interested and involved in a sport. We swallowed the drug. We were totally into it. And then, just our interests and as our skills increased, we just, increasingly got bigger and bigger and bigger and more faster, more powerful bikes. Well, the mini bikes and the dirt bikes essentially disappeared like 25 years ago. So entire generations of young people have grown up not dreaming about, how come I can't have a mini bike or a dirt bike like the other cool kids do? So I was like, we had to go to square one and do motorcycle training courses and then take that national and then take it international. We got to get people learning how to do this because nobody else is. That brings younger people, that brings women, that brings people who thought they didn't have the confidence or the skill to do it, found out that they could. And if they're getting trained at a Harley dealership or they're learning how to ride on Harleys, well, guess what they tend to want to buy when they finish the course or when they finish their training. Bingo, it's plant the seed, cultivate it, water it, nurture it, and hopefully it fruits up for you.
The really interesting thing with that, because it's, and you already answered what my next question was. We talked about, it's like, okay, hey, are we happy with our little cult here? No, we want to grow past it. Can we compete on the product? No, not really, because then you're just you get into the money race there, basically, of trying to put on the new shiniest thing and all those kind of things. What you're talking about there of kind of like you said, throwing the seed out, hoping the fruit comes down the road. That seems like a really, really good idea that a bunch of people, to take like the kind of big bucket of it, like the shareholders, the people who want to make the money would go, well, we can't do that. We need to make, what, you want us to wait 20 years for Harleys to be popular? Come on, what the hell are you talking about? Could you talk us through a little bit of what that looked like and, selling that idea?
Well, yeah. First, the time frames weren't that long, but the investment community, especially late 80s and through the 90s, absolutely loved us because we were one of the first major manufacturers of anything that got so successful that people were getting on waiting lists to buy motorcycles. Harley could not build bikes fast enough to feed all this demand that had been created, which is a blessing and a curse. But from the investment community, it's like, well, woo-hoo, they made a bunch of money this quarter. They're going to make even more next quarter. Yabba dabba do. Whatever you guys are doing, keep doing it. And we did. But they would get really confused because from my perspective, and working with Wall Street was at least half of my job every day. From my perspective is they're the most important audience a business has, not in terms of because they're the owners of the business and shareholder value and all of the crap that people use as excuses right now. But these are the most believable people when the outside world, when members of the government, other investors, members of the media, the Wall Street Journal want to know how a business is doing or what's happening, is they don't call the company because they figure they're going to get some kind of PR whitewash. They'll call the investment community. How healthy is this business? How healthy is this industry? What do you guys see? You do all the research. So at that point, whatever they say, is going to be making headlines the next day. So we need to make sure these people understood what we were doing. And they could not, at least at the very beginning, get their minds around the fact when I tell them this is not a product story. And they'd say, well, of course it's a product story. The product's awesome and everybody wants us. But you got to look at it realistically. The product is awesome and it has to be awesome. But the only way this can be a true product story is if everybody else in the industry is building crap. The Hondas of the world, the BMWs, sorry, they build really good stuff. Really good stuff. And when we competed with product, what we were doing is convincing people to compare. We don't want people to compare, because if they're comparing our nuts and bolts and lean angles and engine size and miles per gallon, miles per hour, and acceleration time to somebody else's, first of all, people would get confused. But the fact that they were even doing comparison would mean they'd eventually look at the price in the lower right-hand corner. And if theirs was lower, well, that's a number that everybody understands. So we are essentially giving business away. So then they would say, well, we will present you as a great marketing story. And I said, no, please don't do that either. Why? Because people get so skeptical of like a great marketing story. They feel like there's a lot of smoke and mirrors there. And I said, what we are essentially is a human behavior story. And they said, what the hell are you talking about? And I said, look, what we have learned to do and build a business around is elevate and be a source of delight for people, not sell people stuff and not serve people stuff, but make people feel like they're part of something, something that they can use to express their individuality while building a whole new network of friends. And what we have learned, and this is kind of human behavior 101, is that if you delight somebody, give somebody a little dopamine release in their brain, 100% of the time they'll come back for more. You put the pellet in front of the rabbit eats it, put another pellet up, he comes and eats that one too. And that's what we kind of discovered this by accident, right? And it's like, if we're delighting people and they're coming back for more, they're not thinking about price. They're not thinking about the competitors. All they're thinking is, I want to be part of that. That's right. Fun. That's cool. That's awesome. I love what these Harley people are doing. How do I get in? Well, you got to buy the bike or get in line for it. And as the investment community started to figure that out, it's like, you guys have cracked a kind of a weird nut here. And I said, yeah, and it rains money. So you can't argue with it. And talk to riders, talk to dealers, talk to competitive people. They'll say, like, it's amazing these guys are doing this and pulling this off.
Well, it makes me think of the most important business question to ask to every business founder is, what business are you in?
It's amazing. And I'm glad you said that, Otis, because if I'm out consulting, when I meet with clients, and picture a boardroom and 6 people, 8 people sitting around a table somewhere. So right now, there's really important conversations happening somewhere. Somebody that somebody that knows this business is sitting across from the world's biggest investor, or the person who would be the biggest customer, the most valuable customer this business has ever had. What would you want that person who is already a customer here, or is already an investor here, or knows the business, what would you want that person to say? Everybody in the room gives you a different answer. Everybody. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is nuts. Okay, what this tells me is that we don't know what this business is. We assume everybody does, because we make toasters and we sell them and people buy them. That's great. Is that what you want to be known for? And they say, no. Well, what do you want to be known for? And that's when people put their hand behind their heads and stare at the ceiling. Go, well, I guess. And I always jump up and go, you guess? Like, holy crap, folks! This is how you pay for your kids to go to college. This is where your retirement's going to come. What is this thing? If you don't know what it is, how do your employees know? How do the people that are out selling your stuff know how to describe what you're doing here? If we don't have agreement on that, man, we're going to get eaten alive by competitors who do. And you got to get out and you got to get ahead of them quickly and strategically. And your point is excellent. Everybody wants to define their business based on what they do. And what I tell people is that that's what killed us. That's what kills a lot of business, kind of the glorifying what we do because that renders us not competitive unless we're the only people in the world who know how to, make toasters, or, sell copy or paper or whatever that is. So if you want to be a dominant competitor, is you have to be known first for who you are. Because when people describe your business, that's what they're doing. They're describing the people who work there. The what you do is more often than not is really obvious. We make TVs, we make toasters, we make cars, whatever that. It's the who you are that people remember. They're cool. They're awesome. I love these guys. They're amazing. All these they words, people words, talk to the who the business is, not the what they do. And that's what creates preference. And if people prefer you over competitors, they're going to find you and they'll be willing to pay more.
Do you think that's a golden rule, or do you think that fits for certain businesses?
No, I believe that fits for all business, because again, it comes back to human behavior. And and I don't like to get all preachy and Dr. Humanity here, but human beings humanize everything. Okay, that's all we know how to do. I cannot describe the guts of a toaster, right, and how it works and how the current enters and all that. Zero idea, and that makes me common with the other 99.9% of the human race. If I'm thinking of a business, every recollection I have of that business has that they pronoun. They suck. They have shitty stuff. Whatever they. So we humanize it because that's all we know how to do. And if we can't attach a human face to a business, if we can't somehow humanize it, means we don't know it, means we don't like it, means it just blends into the background with everybody else. So that's, every business I go to, every meeting I speak at is, what are you looking to do here? Well, we need to be more competitive. The market's never been tougher. And I said, when has that ever not been the case? I mean, it's always been difficult to make a buck and to stop somebody else from making that buck. But unless or until people know who we are, until they can attach a human face to the business and know what makes you different, makes your culture business, makes your philosophy, your attitudes, your behavior different. If people don't know that, that means they don't know you, which means they're going to be lured away by somebody who's selling that same stuff, same products, for less money. I mean, where'd Amazon come from? It's our ability, it's our knack for believing that everything is the same and everything is good enough, and we don't really care where it came from if it's a name that we recognize. The brown box shows up, we pull the product out, whatever it is. We don't remember it, we don't think of it, we don't tell anybody else about it. It's just one of the gazillion commodities that we buy over the course of a year without thinking.
What's the? I guess the term would be, what's the biggest roadblock when you're working with a business and you're trying to get them to shift to that? You're sitting in that boardroom. What's the pushback those folks are giving you?
What they will tell me, and it's I kind of like it because anytime they say what I'm about to say, it means, oh, good, I'm about to make some money.
Yes.
Well, we have a marketing department and it's their job, or we have salespeople and it's their job to do this. Or we have an HR department, they're responsible for the culture here. And I said, why in God's name would you delegate the reputation of this business to a department? The entire essence of your business is your responsibility, because everybody that works at this business says what you say and models your behavior. If every recollection that we have of a business is a mere reflection of the culture of that business, and it is, they stink, they rock, they're awesome, love them, hate them, and that it's absolutely true. It is a reflection of the culture of the business. And then what is the culture of the business a reflection of? It's a reflection of the attitude and the behavior of the people running the business. As you determine where this ship's going to go, that's your job. Okay. And I always show people the three questions that I posted outside my office my first day of work at Harley. Just had three questions. I said, what are people saying? What do we want them to say? And what are we doing to get them to say it? Because unless or until the people that we serve and want to attract know who we are and are talking about us consistently the way we want them to be talking about us, we're not competitive. That's not a marketing function. That's a leadership function. This is who we are, right? This is how we want to be known. This is how we work together. This is what we believe in. This is what we do for you. If people don't see that or don't know it, you just blend in. So we can't do that. And we have to have that consistency. So the roadblock, Otis, is that management's belief that we can turn this over to somebody else. I'm not responsible for this. And wow, there couldn't be more wrong.
That's scary and but also in the same sense, not surprising.
Yeah. Well, it's they're people aren't dumb. This is the world they came up in.
Yeah.
You know, the people who were the leaders before me, this is how they did it, or this is how, you know, leaders always done it, this kind of command control. We run the business, we delegate responsibility to the departments and the functions and the people below us, and they hopefully do their jobs right so that we all make money.
Yeah, it's
the old saying, like, yeah, I'm the heart and soul of this place.
Yeah, well,
and people need to understand this.
It's that old adage of, you know, I told them what to do. I've delegated it.
What I always say is that people only do what they're told to do when the boss is looking. Otherwise, we do what the boss does. We have the same attitude. The bosses who are hands-on and enthusiastic and are eagerly being praiseworthy toward people, exemplifying the kind of behavior that they would want all the employees to do in front of customers. Employees naturally do that. We all model the behavior of the people above us, but the people who stare at their shoes and complain about the market or complain about them, they're just negative people. Employees pick up on that very, very quickly. I mean, why would I want to work for these people anymore? I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even care. You know, I'm just drawing a check. That's what we do. We do what the boss does. We model their behavior.
Mm-hmm. I think there's an interesting piece here with some of the stuff we talked about, Dad. It goes back to actually our previous episode with Eileen. We threw out the term of talking about like voodoo leadership when you talk about like transformational things, that it's like, trust me, this works and this will work in the big picture, but it's like, I cannot explain to you with numbers right now how this will work. And Ken, a lot of the stuff you're talking about organizationally, it falls in that same kind of vein to me, where it's the system that you're talking about, why it was done this way. Well, because they built a system for it to work like that. And it's very measurable. You can replicate it, all those kind of things. What are your thoughts on how to kind of shift the mindset inside of a business towards that more, like I said, the voodoo leadership, the transformational, this thing that isn't quite as measurable, and it resists measurement really in a lot of ways?
And it's such a good point, because what we did, if you kind of simplify it, and obviously it wasn't like you just turn on a switch, was switched a mindset out of we're here to serve people. We're here to serve, because that's everyone's knee-jerk. Why are we here? We're to serve, take care of our people, take care of our customers. You know, well, we did that right up to the point of Chapter 11. Like the serving never stopped, but the business went to hell. The mindset shifted because it had to, from a we're here to serve to we're here to be a source of delight for people. We're here to please people, which means we're here to elevate people instead of our products. Obviously, there's going to be time to talk about and extol all the fabulous virtues and features of the product, but people are way more inclined to listen if they feel like they're the one that's important here. If they're being noticed and reacted to, made to feel not just welcome, but absolutely wanted and part of something cool. It kind of feeds all these little dopamine sensors in people's brains. It feels good to be wanted and noticed and reacted to, and not sold to, or not talked down to, or not made to feel stupid because I don't speak this language and understand all the terminology. Like, go buy a laptop. See how much of that technology, or how much of that language you understand on the sell sheet there. If we're doing that, we're working against ourselves. And there was tremendous pushback at Harley to doing this, especially from the older, and I say older with great respect, and boys like, hey, are you saying that our bikes aren't important? I said, absolutely not. You're saying that the bikes aren't great. No, the bikes are great, but they have to be. And everybody already knows that. So we can continue doing what we've been doing until they board up the building. We're broke. We have no, it stopped working, guys. We have to change the focus of the business. And if we can do that. So there was resistance to doing wait, you're telling me that I shouldn't be telling a customer about all of the features and the nuts and bolts on the product, the old features and benefits selling. You can do that, but you can't lead with that because it's not the product that's important here. It's the person that you're talking to. And people will notice that. It's a hard mindset shift because you make money when you sell the bike. Mm. And I would try to explain this to investors. I say, well, what's your ROI? And how many people that enter into a dealership or come take a demo ride are you going to sell a bike to? And I always say, I'm not going to, what would you do with that data? I said, look at what we're doing. All we're doing is working to get people to like us a little bit more than the people that we compete against. Because if they like us more, they'll come in, they'll spend the money. And they say, how do you measure that? And I said, the only way you can measure that is through net income and margins. Our margins are going up. So it's telling us what we're doing is working. You can measure that any way you want. But if somebody can prove that this doesn't work, I'd love to see it.
Well, yeah, and that's such a tough mind shift, I think, because
it is. And a lot of people
get wrapped around.
How are you able to do that? And I say, hey, I got to be honest. Is being broke and fear of losing jobs is a pretty damn strong motivator. Period. So you go into a business that's doing well, or certainly not in trouble, and you talk about this stuff, and they say, well, it's kind of hard to incent people or get people fired up at that notion of doing that. And I said, well, then that's the job of leadership that says, hey, this isn't the desired behavior here. This is the expected behavior here. This is what we do. I mean, why are employees behind the counter at a Chick-fil-A so much friendlier than they are at any other kind of fast food sandwich joint? It's because they have to be. This is the job. This is what you do here. And the manager is always going to be present behind the counter. And the manager is always going to look like he or she's having the time of their life being there because the employees model that person's behaviors. I have to do this. The boss is right there. Why is this so hard for people to get? When it's the expectation, hey, if you don't want to do this, you can go work somewhere else. But this is what we do here. And guess what? We have happier days, We talk to each other. We kind of tend to like each other better when we're being human toward each other instead of just, acting like machines.
Yeah, I love that. And it's such an important piece. And Cam, it just reminds me of our good friend, James Kemp. Give him a shout out because he's such a smart guy in this sense. And I was reading something or talking with him. I can't remember which one it was that it was the same thing, even in, what we do with Tribe and Purpose. Are you helping people make money or are you helping people be happy? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter which one you're doing.
Yeah, pick one.
But pick one and go with that. Because what a mindset shift for a product company that's wrapped around the axle of that, like Harley-Davidson. We make motorcycles.
No, I would also tell you, and this is one of the things that I do when I'm working with my clients, as I tell them, because when we talk about that second question of my three questions, what do you want people to say? And they'll say, well, once we get, we want to talk about the quality of our products, and our people make the difference. Everybody says that, and who cares? You need to have more memorable language, more memorable vernacular attached to this business that doesn't speak to what you do. We manufacture this, we serve, we sell asphalt, whatever that is. And I said the example that we used at Harley to bust out of the we make motorcycles is we created a pillar of 5 words that we would remember, that we would use in all of our conversations, all our marketing materials, all the signage at dealerships, at an event. And the word, the first big word was lifestyle. We're a lifestyle business. And people say, what does that mean? What difference does it make? What it means, you can see a picture in your head, can't you? You're seeing people in leather and they're riding bikes and maybe there's music playing and they're all gathered and they're seeming to have a good time. Lifestyle. They're buying leather collars for their dogs that say Harley on. Lifestyle. Second, freedom. We sell freedom. Oh, freedom from what? I said, that's not the point. Right? It's whatever you want that to be, what that represents to you. Living on your own terms, being the person that you want to be, whatever. We don't care. The competitors aren't using that. We are. We sell camaraderie, something everybody wants to be, belonging to something, being part of something, making new friends, having things to do. And the opposite end of the spectrum of camaraderie is individuality. This is how you can stand out and be appreciated and seen for who you really are. And we've got everything you need to do that. Jackets, clothes, things that you can use to customize your bike. And the bottom of all that, rebellion. Not rebellion against, the man. This is rebellion against doing things the way everybody else does. And if we continue to use that as language, I use this example all the time of a African woman who's explaining what she was doing, riding her motorcycle through every country in Africa, which is an extraordinarily difficult thing to do. It's a massive country. And I said, what bike are you doing? She goes, Harley-Davidson. And I said, why Harley-Davidson? She goes, it's a lifestyle. And as soon as it came out of her mouth, I just stuck both hands over my head. Said, thank you. Thank you. If we're saying it, that's who it is. They're a lifestyle company. We'll take it. That positive. The other guys are selling motorcycles. They're a lifestyle company. Bingo, we win. People come our way first.
There's an interesting piece with that, which is because I feel like whenever we have these kind of conversations with folks about those kind of changes, it makes a lot of sense. But then there's this interesting problem set as I look at like right now and looking forward in the future a little bit, which is the market maturity aspect of it. You know, there's less, I would almost say like information asymmetry in that kind of a way where it's like people understand these kind of things. There's a lot of people out there who might not own a business who know some of these marketing things that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And, every business out there is a lifestyle business. Every business out there does that. Once you do that, it kind of waters things down a bit. What are your thoughts on either like what the changes that companies need to make to stand out in that, or two of what the next big difference like that big jump is looking forward?
First, if you're going to develop a kind of differentiating vernacular, and I always tell people, like, I'm the leader, like, sit down every day and think of 3 or 4 words that you would hope that your employees or investors would use when they talk about you. Because it's your most, your reputation is your most valuable asset. And I said, but the important thing is that that language that you use has to be tangible and visible. I mean, it has to be real to people. If we're going to talk about, lifestyle at heart, that means constantly doing events and activities and rallies and that bring people together. And the Foo Fighters come in, or Jelly Roll, or every country artist you can imagine going to come in. People are going to have a damn good time. Lifestyle. That's bringing people together. That's camaraderie. Showing everyone how they can customize the bikes and change. That's individuality. That's freedom. Showing the incredible things that women have done to their motorcycles, because people aren't used to the thought of women creating big custom. Wow, that's freedom and individuality. It's all of their expressions. So this language is always brought to life. And it's real. And the mistake a lot of businesses will make is they'll try to come up with this fancy positioning stuff that's not real. And what I tell people, it's like a quote unquote rebranding. And I absolutely hate that word because it never seems to work anywhere. I say, coming up with new terminology and new logos, but not having any fundamental change in the business means you've done nothing. It's like you got a haircut when what you needed was a heart transplant. You need to do more than just slap that new coat, put a coat of paint on the barn. It has to be real. It has to be tangible. Management needs to not only demand it, but they have to be living that. They need to be the embodiment of these things. in order for it to happen, and not delegate that to the marketing department, because then it's a function, and functions don't make businesses competitive. Cultures do.
Yeah. Well, and culture and philosophy, and I got to ask this question. I just
Yeah.
have to go down this road. Is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance required reading at Harley-Davidson?
No, but what's actually kind of funny about it is I would guess that a lot of the newer employees I don't even know what that is, but that was for a lot of people the quintessential 1960s. I think that came out in the 60s, 67, 60, book about motorcycle and what and the Zen, but the mindscape under motorcycling. The great thing about Harley is there's so many big events that happen that employees new blood can figure out pretty quickly what the business stands for when they go out to these things, when they work at them. Your job is to talk to customers 8 to 10 hours a day. Ask them questions and always react to what they're telling you. Hey, where'd you ride in from? Well, Philly. I love it. Because when you react like that, people keep talking. And as long as they're talking, that means they like you. Someone's paying attention to me. I like that. These people from Harley are cool. We're winning. It doesn't really take much effort, but people notice it. And most businesses just flat out aren't willing to do that. And anybody that's been to a trade show will back me up on that. There's just a bunch of people standing with their feet planted, staring forward, hoping that a potential customer walks toward them. And as soon as they do, immediately showing them the new product. I'm like, oh, you're blowing it. This whole room is filled with product that looks exactly like yours. Why would you be doing that? Well, I thought that's what we're supposed to do, because that was what the boss said we had to do. I said, okay, good luck.
Yeah, man. I'm sitting here thinking what I learned in there's a ton, but I think I'm going to shift it to the not necessarily what I learned, but the emphasis of being so clearly defined of what your business exists to do, and that everybody in the business has to know that and agree to that. And if you don't have that clarity, then you could never be successful.
The market will never have clarity. They don't know if you don't know who you are, how can you expect the customers and potential customers or your competitors or investors to know who you are?
Yeah, exactly. And I always find it interesting that in the sense of, how'd you get this far without having that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is such an important piece for businesses, people that, because businesses is people, understand what that is. So ask yourself that, folks. What business are you in? And whether you're the CEO founder or the junior mailroom clerk, what business are you in? So
In most businesses, Otis, that are doing well, to your earlier point, hey, we invented this thing or we sell it and we're doing well. And yes, you are, and good for you. But if you're doing something well, all that means is people are going to begin copying what you're doing.
Yep.
Fact of life. And some are going to be really, really good at it. And a lot of times they won't be able to tell any difference between what you're selling and what they're selling. So what will they do? They'll just lower the price on theirs. Oof, you're really good at what you're doing, but now you're being undercut by other people that are doing it. Now, what business are you in?
yeah.
And I said, uh-oh, same business that they're in. You can't do that.
No.
If you want to survive.
Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
Yeah. For me, it was that the differentiator has to be real, and it kind of jarred a memory. I know I've told a handful of stories of some negative lessons learned with my first business venture with Cobra Valley Indoor Farms, and one of the things that I just realized that we did really well with it was in that we talked so much about community and sustainability and those kind of things. But for community, we literally had an open door policy. if somebody was in the farm, the door was open and they could walk right in, and I would give them a tour. I would stop whatever I'm doing and spend that time with them and connect with them as a person. And that is, one, that's just me. I'm a chatty Cathy. I like to talk to people and those kind of things. That was real easy for me.
A
but
chatty
it's like,
Cathy. Did you hear that, Otis?
Oh, I know. Believe me. Go to the grocery store with that boy.
Yeah. But because I was doing that and we were talking community, to your earlier point, Ken, it's like they saw the same thing. It's not like, to use an example of we did a video on this, Dad, and I know my clip talking about family, we posted it like every couple months, but it's like this idea of, it's like, hey, we're family, telling people you're family. It's like, well, show me your family. Like, why are you yelling at me that we're family? Like, there's this weird thing that happens there. So I love that idea that the differentiator has to be real and how important it is to embody that.
Amen.
Ken, how about you, man? What'd you learn?
The thing that always sparks in my brain when I talk about the they word, how we humanize a business and refer to it as a they. And if we're spoken of as a they in a positive way, that means we are dominant over the businesses that we're competing against. And what's always amazing to me is that one person can create that positive they for an entire business. You go into a restaurant, the first time you've been there, and for whatever reason, your server's just on fire. Spectacular job, and made it so fun for you, and it wasn't irritating, and didn't, make the dishwashers come out and embarrass themselves and sing happy birthday to whatever that was. You just had a great time. And somebody asks you about it a week later, 2 weeks later. You don't remember what you ate. Hey, how were things at that restaurant? You go, oh, they're amazing. One person, this is a positive they. I like this business based on what this one person became the umbrella for the whole business. We said that's the opportunity that every business has. Well, who's answering the phone? Who's talking to customers? Who's potentially talking to customers? Who's talking to the people who talk to our customers? If we think that way, it means we're already creating that kind of mindset shift that says it's the people side that's more important than the what's being provided, the product, the service.
Awesome. Thanks, Ken. Ken, how do folks find you, follow you, see where you're going next?
If you can get out, you can find me at my website, which is kenspeaks.com. Lots of stories and videos and things on there. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I'd also say that anybody that's got questions can ask me questions on LinkedIn or email me at ken@kenspeaks.com. I answer any question that anybody has about bikes, business, whatever. I enjoy doing that. Or you can listen to my podcast, Tailgating with Geniuses. Talk to smart people about things that ordinarily we don't think about.
Awesome. Ken, thank you so much for your time today. It was a blast.
Hey, this was a lot of fun, guys. We should do this again.
Oh, yeah. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Ken Schmidt, for joining us today. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so that they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, the full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.